Some Hollywood artists go down as masters of their craft, who seem to turn nearly any work of art they touch into absolute gold. Show me a Jackie Chan martial arts movie where you are not having a blast, or a Christopher Nolan film that is not the epitome of premium directing. But there's a flip side to that coin. Artists that are box office poison and exist as nothing other than sentient memes for us to point and laugh at until the next disaster strikes, likely starring Amy Schumer. But good or bad, a hat trick, now that's rare. But what even is a hat trick? Well, it's defined as 3 successes of the same kind, especially consecutive ones, within a limited period. Most notably a term in soccer, or football, as scoring 3 goals in one game. And thanks to Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, we may have just witnessed the most gut-bustingly hilarious hat trick in Hollywood history. Welcome back to Words of Paradise. I'm your host, Leon Idle, and today we're going to talk about Phoebe Waller-Bridge. Now, I mentioned in the beginning that a hat trick is defined as 3 successes within a consecutive period of time, so you might find yourself wondering, how does that work with hers being colossal failures? Well, it does, trust me, and here's why. At this point, we've seen movies circle the drain with such fervor ever since 2016 with Ghostbusters. I am firmly convinced they actually want to lose money and destroy these franchises, and with Star Wars, James Bond, and now Indy, they have certainly accomplished that goal, all with Phoebe Waller-Bridge. Hat trick. Now, for some reason, Tinseltown was convinced that this anthropomorphized equine had some quality that somewhat resembles talent, largely based on the performance of her TV show, and I say this loosely, comedy, Fleabag. Now, Fleabag is a show she wrote based on her own one-woman show of the same name, because, of course, this long-faced avatar of narcissism wrote a one-woman show starring herself. Now, full disclosure, I haven't actually seen Fleabag, and it very well could be good. It did win many awards, but to that I say, Hitler won the award for Person of the Year and was on the cover of Time magazine, so my working theory, awards don't actually measure quality. However, the series did make enough of a splash to land this woman in one of, if not the biggest franchise in the world, Star Wars. Not just any Star Wars though, Solo, a Star Wars story, aka the only Star Wars film to lose money ever. At least until the new Rey Palpatine movies come out, but you know, we'll get there when we get there. In all fairness, I'm not going to say she ruined Star Wars or even Solo as a film. Disney and Kathleen Kennedy did that all on their own, but she certainly didn't help, and this is what put her on the map to us cheeseburger-chomping Americans, because of course they would cast a feminist Brit as an activist droid in modern Star Wars. I mean, have you ever just heard someone's voice and thought, wow, I bet they look British? That's what we got with L337. And I mean, how can you forget such a classic line as,
"No! Unacceptable! Stop exploiting droids! You sloppy
She never learns.
Who?
My first mate.
got no business being here! Get out of here! How can you condone this savagery?"
or of course her story about how she didn't even know what a droid was.
What is the story that at the audition you weren't a Star Wars aficionado when you auditioned?
No, I hadn't. Thanks for bringing this up. I hadn't seen any of the Star Wars films.
Not a single one. That's a disgrace.
So I was going to the audition and I thought, this character was amazing, she's a revolutionary, she's really cool, and the dialogue was amazing. But it kind of said, just in one of the stage directions, droid. And so I was like, droid. What's a droid? And then I Googled droid, and then nothing much really came up, weirdly, just pictures. There wasn't explicitly, it was a robot. Yeah.
Now, she claims she Googled it. Guys, let's Google it real quick. Oh! Look at all these pictures of robots! Well, I knew by this image that would mean I'm playing a robot. And yeah, you do not have to be a fan of what you're auditioning for to play in it. That would be absurd. But she drones on about this character being revolutionary without even knowing the context of the franchise she's auditioning for. I mean, at this point, Star Wars is like 10 films deep. While she may not have destroyed Star Wars single-handedly, she certainly did play a part in it, and this alone would put her on the map as someone for fans everywhere to keep an eye on, and not in a positive way. Given the minimal damage she did to Star Wars in the grand scheme of things, to the untrained eye, having her come on to do work on Bond must have seemed like a no-brainer. At this point, she's viewed as one of the most talented writers in the UK, which only serves to further my theory that Ryan Roger Athay is far too proud of his country and should probably rein it in a little bit, but I digress. And bringing her into a flagship franchise as a writer could only help bolster the film. But to fans, they saw the writing on the wall. Now, if I were to tell my grandfather, a man who was an extra in Dr. No, I'm not making that up, by the way, that an activist writer best known for feminine comedy would be a writer for arguably the most masculine character in fictional history, he would have a bigger emotional breakdown than the worst of his Vietnam flashbacks, but that's the world we live in. And fans were entirely correct to have this worry, because, just like she openly talked about how she knew nothing of Star Wars, vilifying her to one of the most rabid fan bases in the world, She made those same Vietnam veterans like my grandfather jealous by showing off the fact that she still did have 2 legs, unlike them, by being able to insert her foot in her mouth a second time by talking about how she did not know what she was getting into with James Bond and did no research on the source material. In fact, the actual quote is, "I should naturally have done a lot of Bond research, but I didn't do a huge amount of research for it. I'm not very good at homework. That says a lot." Yes, Phoebe. Yes, it does. It says quite a bit about how you're able to just coast into positions that most people would fight stage 4 liver cancer for, based purely on being lauded for one television show that was a hit in a country so soy-filled that knives are outlawed. Needless to say, much like Solo, this film didn't exactly do well. With a number that sounds impressive, like $750 million at the box office, the movie still actually lost about $100 million according to Variety, when you factor in the budget, marketing, cost of delays, and reshoots, and the fact that the previous 2 Bond films both performed better on a smaller budget, with Skyfall reaching $1.1 billion, and even the much maligned Spectre still grossing almost $900 million, and that is before adjusting for inflation. And there you have it, 2 franchises down, 1 to go. At this point, people are wondering, how does this woman keep getting work? I mean, it certainly can't be skills that often require one to be on their knees, considering she seems to find the male phallus revolting. Then again, for the Hollywood executive receiving this hypothetical horsehead, I imagine it wouldn't be too pleasant for him either, when there are plenty of far more attractive women in Hollywood to exploit, so we can probably lay this theory to bed pretty quickly since it does not suit either party's agenda. And with that, we get to this Fleabag's most recent infestation, Indiana Jones, because if there's one thing that the House of Mousewiss is incapable of doing, it's learning from their past mistakes. Now, I can only imagine they heard that Phoebe Waller-Bridge was working on Tomb Raider and decided to raid some tombs of their own by bringing back this thankfully dead franchise for one last adventure that no one asked for. By this point, eagle-eyed fans had gone from cautious to full-on resentful, spiteful, and in some cases, and even worse, apathetic. Fans of the classic heroes and stories knew the score. The young upstart female would degrade Indiana, be more proficient and capable than him, have no weaknesses, upstage him in his own film, and now the movie is out, yep, we were right again with Indiana Jones looking to be an even bigger flop than The Flash, but hey, at least this time she didn't put her foot in her mouth and claim that she was actually a fan of the original work.
Like for you to join this universe?
I was already a fan. I was a huge fan, and it was not something I ever imagined I'd be a part of. So every single day felt like a dream, and reading that script, just realizing what they've done and the gravitas that Jim's brought to it and the Butterworth brothers have brought to it in the script, it's just a beautiful, beautiful closing chapter, and I'm so proud to be part of it.
Indiana Jones has an even larger budget than No Time to Die and is tracking far worse at the time of writing and recording this. Add to that the fact that Disney hasn't had a financial success yet this year between The Little Mermaid, Elemental, Peter Pan, and Ant-Man Quantumania. Maybe using the dial of destiny to go back in time and keep all those films from happening and keeping her away from our fan-favorite properties would have made for a far more gripping story. But hey, at least now it's complete. The Hollywood hat trick, this walking personification of anti-fandom, is at hand in destroying 3 of the single most beloved film franchises in movie history and does not feel one single shred of remorse for it. No, more than anything else, she is rewarded for it. She gets to go from destroying things that men love to tarnishing an absolute beacon of femininity that women love with Amazon's Tomb Raider series. And you know what? I said that a hat trick is 3 consecutive successes, right? I don't know if there's a term for 4 consecutive successes, but if there isn't, allow me to propose one right now. Waller-bridging. But those are just my opinions. Let me know yours in the comments down below, or let me know on Twitter where you can find me at BoltTheWord. And please just subscribe. I am a nerdy news channel. Aside from when I'm doing, nerdy scripted videos like this today, I do these about once a month, give or take. But it's all here in the nerdosphere, and this has been Words of Paradise.